All right, just a quick announcement again. No service this Saturday. It's the 4th of July. And if you didn't already know it, the LA County beaches are closed this weekend. So if you live in Orange County by the beach, expect a lot more activity. So I would, it's going to be warm too. So just be aware, because all those people that are going to be at the beach in Los Angeles are going to be going to Huntington Beach and maybe Oceanside Harbor or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, so it's going to, the good news is there's no fireworks show, so that eliminates some potential human hazards. But then Huntington Beach has its own standard of fireworks show, which is another standard of human fear and lawlessness. So anyways, be safe on the 4th of July, but don't come here because it'll be empty and you'll say, oh, I'm here, so I should just pray for Pastor Joey and the church and everything. And that'll be good too, all right? So bless you. Have a wonderful 4th of July weekend. So tonight is the 30th, so we're halfway through the year, so congratulations. By God's decree, you've made it through halfway through 2020, which wouldn't seem like a great expectation on January 1st, but on June 30th, it takes on a little more meaning and significance with all that's gone on. So we're here, we're the church, praise the Lord. And then, of course, Saturday, we celebrated 15 years as a church here in the sanctuary, Worship Generation Church, and this is a carryover of that because really, tonight still, it's always the last week of June is when we started the church, so we're still technically celebrating our 15-year anniversary. So congratulations, Worship Generation. We have been in this building 15 years. Some 1,500 services have happened here, weddings, funerals, special events, all kinds of different things. We've had many wonderful different people visit us at different times under different circumstances. Not the least, James Dobson was here for one of our Christmases. We dedicated his grandson that night. You just never know what's going to happen. All the people of the nation. And so we thank the Lord for 15 years in this building, his faithfulness, all the people that have come and gone, people that are in other states, other cities, other countries, other churches, other works. It's been a wonderful experience. It looks like the book of Acts in the year 2020, and that's how it should look, just a continuation of God's faithfulness. So praise the Lord. We're here tonight, and we thank him for halfway through the year, and we thank him for 15 years as a church here in the Shoreline Sanctuary. Tonight, we're going to be in Exodus chapter 38, and we're going to be finishing up the book of Exodus. So if you have a Bible, you can open up to Exodus chapter 38. As we come to chapter 38, we are in that part of Exodus where we do have a fair bit of text. And at first sight, it might seem redundant, but it's the clarification of the things happening. As we mentioned last week, when we finished off in chapter 37, that as they were building things, they're making the things that they were instructed to make. So the Lord gave Moses the guidelines of what needs to be built. The people brought the offerings and the gifts to build the items for the central place of worship, the tabernacle and the animal sacrificial system, and all that goes there with the children of Israel, the Mosaic Covenant. It's called that because Moses was their leader at the time. They're there on the Sinai Peninsula. It's about 1500 BC, and God's making that incredible covenant with a nation of people that he's going to be with them with his law. We've seen that the law is moral, the 10 Commandments. It's civil, how to be guided as a nation, and it's religious. And so how he's going to be worshiped. And as we look at these things tonight, we're really coming to the apex of establishing of the religious law and the central place of worship with the tabernacle being built where the people are going to come to seek forgiveness with their animal sacrificial system, where they seek the Lord on the holidays. They acknowledge the Lord and his faithfulness over them. And so we've been given the instructions and we get the details as we're going forward of the things actually being done. Because it's one thing to have a plan. It's one thing to talk about something you're going to do. But the Proverbs tells us a matter completed is better than one spoken of. And so we're seeing the movement toward completion of these things. And that's going to be our application as we go through this, carrying over from last week. So we've covered the exciting part of building the elements of gold that go inside the tabernacle. It's all gold, the Ark of the Covenant, the table for the showbread, the altar of incense, the lamp, it's gold. And gold's exciting. But now we get some bronze, and we pick it up in chapter 38. And speaking of Baziel, who built these things, supernaturally equipped by the Lord to do so, we read that he, Bazaleel, he made the altar of burnt offering of acacia wood. Now, this is the altar that goes out front where the animal sacrifices will be. So it's not in the tabernacle, it's in the courtyard. So he made the altar of burnt offering of acacia wood, 5 cubits with its length, 5 cubits its width. Remember, a cubit's 18 inches, generally speaking. So you just times 1.5 and you get your measurements, 1.5 feet for each cubit. And so 5 cubits with its length, 4 corners, width. It was square and its height was 3 cubits. He made its horns on its 4 corners. The horns were of one piece with it. And he overlaid it with bronze. He made all the utensils for the altar, the pans, the shovels, the basins, the forks, the fire pans, all of its utensils he made of bronze. And he made a grate of bronze network for the altar under its rim, midway from the bottom. He cast 4 rings for the 4 corners of the bronze grating as holders for the poles. And he made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with bronze. So see, there's the contrast from the poles that would carry the most holy things. They were of gold. This pole is overlaid with bronze. Then he put the poles into the rings on the side of the altar, verse 7, with which to bear it. He made the altar hollow with boards. He made the Lavra of bronze and its base of bronze from the bronze mirrors of the serving women who assembled at the door at the tabernacle of meeting. Then he made the court on the south side. The hangings of the court were of fine woven linen, 100 cubits long. There were 20 pillars for them, with 20 bronze sockets. The hooks on the pillars and their bands were silver. So we have some silver intermingled here with the bronze. Verse 11. On the north side, the hangings were 100 cubit long, with 20 pillars and their 20 bronze sockets. The hooks of the pillars and their bands were silver, and on the west side there were hanging of 50 cubits with 10 pillars and their 10 sockets. The hooks of the pillars and their bands were silver. For the east side the hangings were 50 cubits. The hangings of the one side of the gate were 15 cubits long with their 3 pillars and their 3 sockets, and the same for the other side of the court gate. On this side there were hanging of 15 cubits with the 3 pillars and their 3 sockets. All the hangings of the court all around were of fine woven linen. The sockets for the pillars were bronze, the hooks of the pillars and their bands were silver, and overlaying of their capitals were silver, and all the pillars of the court had bands of silver. The screen for the gate of the court was woven of blue, purple, and scarlet thread of fine woven linen. The length was 20 cubits, and the height along its width was 5 cubits, corresponding to the hangings of the court. And there were 4 pillars with 4 sockets of bronze. Their hooks were silver, and the overlay of the capitals and the bands were silver. All the pegs of the tabernacle and of the court all around were bronze. So we have the metal of bronze here. And again, the tabernacle is rectangular, and it's about 50 yards long. So it's half a football field, but not as wide. So it's the length, and then it's more narrow as it's rectangular. And this is the outer court where it had like a curtain, almost like a fence. And you would come into that, and that's where you'd have the altar where you made these sacrifices. That's why the utensils are like kitchen utensils, because they'd offer the various animals that were offered up as sacrifices for sin. Now, when we get to Leviticus, it's the sin offering, the burnt offering, the trespass offering, the heave offering, the wave offering. We've seen some of this already going through Exodus as God was preparing the way. But the thing to always remember about these offerings is all of them point toward Christ, because we're told that Jesus is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. And we are told in the book of Hebrews in the New Testament, looking back on the Old Testament, that the blood of bulls and goats could never take away sin, but they're shadows of things to come. And when Christ came and died on the cross for our sins, all this animal sacrificial system, which was very important to the Lord, is replaced. And we're told that Jesus, rising from the grave, ascending to heaven at the right hand of the Father, and ever lives to intercede for us, he replaces the priesthood of Aaron, which we'll get to shortly before we're done tonight, the Levitical priesthood, because he's a priesthood of a higher order according to Melchizedek. And he forever has entered into the holy place in heaven. And remember, these things are models of things in heaven. And that the blood of bulls and goats could never take away sin, just cover it up. And that Jesus makes them obsolete. There are things that we understand are obsolete. 8-track cassette players are obsolete. There are things that just are obsolete. I remember when he said like the little Walkman iPhone, like not the iPhone, but just the little Walkman, the little iPod thing. And I thought it was so cool. My kids had them when they're like 2005, 2006, and I would borrow theirs to go on the treadmill, and I could listen. It's like, this is really cool. Like, it's better than a cassette player like we had in the 80s, right? When you travel on a plane in the 80s, you would have the smoking section, and you'd have your Walkman, and you'd play a cassette, and you couldn't just re-hit. You had to rewind. So like listening to Pretenders on the way to Australia, I'd rewind to the song like 20 times. in the middle of the road, like over and over and over, right? That's all obsolete. None of you are using a cassette player, Walkman. It's obsolete. So this is a shadow of things to come, but Christ makes it obsolete. And it's just noteworthy that way. It's important to have the context. But let's think about this. This was obviously very important to the Lord, the Father, because he did this for 1,500 years. For 15 centuries, that is a very, very long time. Like we're barely 200 years old and we're trying to hold this together. The Jews existed as a people in their promised land for 1,500 years, and this tabernacle and then the temple were the central place of worship till it was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar, but then rebuilt by Ezra. It's amazing. But then Jesus, of course, said that he would replace all this, destroy this temple, in 3 days I'll raise it up. So even the tabernacle and the temple were symbolically speaking of Christ, his body, and what he would do for us. That's this tabernacle. It's bronze. Did you catch that? If you've ever competed in sports, there's gold, there's silver, and there's bronze. And let me tell you, I've received all three. In surfing, they even have copper. So if you're a fourth place team, like you make the Final Four like basketball, they have copper. So when we competed in world championship events as Team USA or Great Britain or Chile, you could get gold, silver, bronze, or in the case of surfing, copper. It's a decrease of value of metals, right? And having one gold feels a lot better than silver or bronze. I don't know, it's obviously worth more. We could go on Monex's website and see how much gold's worth right now, an ounce, and how much silver's worth, and how much bronze is worth, and we'll see a distinction of those things. God gave distinct metals with distinct purposes. Here's the challenge with bronze. I was coaching the U.S. team for the first time back in 07, 08. And we were doing a training. It's that day when Pete Carroll, the coach of USC football, came down to hang out with us and watch us train, along with Bob McKnight from Quicksilver, the president. They came to watch the team train that day. And one of our top athletes, we were doing a training camp, and we were having a team contest. And we just, when you're a coach, you just do things. So we did this structure where we had, like, you couldn't win the gold. You went to like a bracket where you couldn't win the gold, but you could still win bronze. And you can learn a lot by how much people want bronze. And by the way, this goes on in the Olympics, if we ever have the Olympics again, which is another story for another time. But in the Olympics, like with tennis or wrestling and even team volleyball, stuff like that, they have the consolation final for bronze. You remember that? Like, so, for example, let's just say it's Federer against Nadal for gold, and then maybe it'd be De Potro playing someone for bronze to try and win the bronze. And that match will happen before the gold medal match, but the winner of that match gets a bronze medal. And it's very interesting in the Olympics when you have that bronze medal match. And by the way, you have it in archery too, because archery is man on man or woman on woman. So if you lost your semifinal, the two semifinal winners go to the final for gold and silver, but the two losers go to this match for bronze. And what's very interesting about the bronze medal match is usually someone is psyching to still win a medal and someone else is over it. If you've ever paid attention, and I have for years on this, some people, if they can't have gold, they are over it. They don't. If it's not gold, or as one of those U.S. team surfers used to say, silver's first loser. And I was like, I've gone to world championships, come home with no medals. I'll take a silver over nothing. But I got to say, when we got silver after getting gold, it felt like a loser. So I kind of... Once you had gold, silver is a step down. Remember, Solomon had gold shields, and his son Rehoboam, what did he have? Bronze shields. Yeah, it was a degeneration. It was a retraction as a step down. And that's a whole other Bible study, too. But here's something about bronze. When we did that training that day with Bob McKnight from Quicksilver and Pete Carroll there, this star surfer was eliminated from being able to win gold. And he had to surf this heat at Huntington Pier, going for bronze. And he fell off on every wave. He didn't care. He didn't take it seriously. And it was really like, he'd showed a side I'd never seen before, because he's generally a really easy guy to coach and a leader. He was like almost like our captain in a way. He was a senior in high school, so it was his last year on the world junior team. And his mom came. It was one of those epic moments. She came and yelled at me in front of Pete Carroll. I was like, really? Not today. Please, not today. She came and just read me in front of Pete Carroll. I'm like, it's Pete Carroll. Could you yell at me tomorrow? It's Pete Carroll, USC, fight on. Like that kind of a thing. And she yelled at me. And I told Pete, it was a classic moment. It's not really part of the story, but it's a good thing. I said to Pete, I go, I'm really sorry about that. And he goes, you should see what I deal with. He goes, you see what I deal with? No, it's all good. I was like, wow. I just got railed. The hardest I've ever been railed by a parent in front of anybody was that day in front of Pete Carroll. I was like, well, there goes my bubble of, let's impress Pete Carroll and get season tickets to, the Trojan fight on. But I called that young man later that day on the phone. I'll never forget it. I called him, and it was the last day of our training camp. So we all went our way, and he was really shut it down. We did a team photo. He shut it down. And I called him, I explained to him, I said, there might be a day when you wake up and your wife has cancer and she's dying, and you still got to go to work. And you're not going for gold. You're going for bronze. You just got to get up and go to work. I see most of the people in the world get up and don't get to go for gold. Do you understand that? Like, you got to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because you feel like it. Life is hard, and hard things happen in life, and bad things happen to good people, okay? Like, it's not always gold. You don't always get to go for the gold. And I'm trying to help you because this young man did not have a dad at all in his life. And I said, I'm trying to help you become a man. I could care less about surfing. And the next time you're in a heat where it's for bronze, you need to give 100%. Not for me, but for you. Because life is cruel and bad things happen. And you can't just quit because you can't get the gold. Give it everything you got when there's still a chance to go for bronze. And don't sell yourself short. So I say all that because when I see the colors of metals, there is a distinction. And I wonder to myself, for Bezalel if it was harder to build the bronze than it was the gold. Because gold's more exciting. Wouldn't you think like the Ark of the Covenant's more exciting to make of gold? I mean, the cherubim, the artwork, it's like, wow, like you're building angels, and it's where the worship is, and the covering of the mercy seat, and just like as an artist, like how much you'd be into it, and it's gold, and it shines, and when you're overlaying the acacia poles with gold, it's like, wow, hey guys, come over here, hey, check this out, Ithamar, check out this gold. It's like, look at this line here, look at the gold, and it's like, it's just so different. And then the bronze. Oh, we're going to kill animals for 1,500 years. This will be a bloody mess. The mercy seat, you only come in once a year, and it's Yom Kippur. It's really special. It's so special, only one human being ever gets to see it. Once a year. And he's got holiness to the Lord on his forehead with a turban. This bronze thing, everybody sees the bronze thing. They bring their goats, they bring their cattle, they bring this and that, they bring the turtle doves. Bronze is not nearly as exciting as gold. So I wonder if he gave it the same effort and the same focus and the same passion that he gave the gold. And I ask myself, do I give the things God's called me to do? Gold's exciting. In the World Championships, as a coach, there were mornings we woke up on the last day and we're in it. We got a chance for gold. You can't sleep, by the way. It's just like, super gurgly. I mean, how many times you get to be a world champion, right? So it's like, just like can't even sleep up at like 4, 3 in the morning, like going, like, Lord, if it could ever be my day, could this just be my day? And I've had those days where we could go for the gold and we got the gold. And I've had the days where we go for gold and it didn't go our way right off the bat. And okay, maybe silver. Okay, hoping for bronze. And I've had other days where we got up on the last day, particularly 2009 with the U.S. junior team in Ecuador, after I'd been super sick. Some of you might remember that experience when I got violently sick in Ecuador. It took me months to recover. I almost died in Ecuador. I was that sick. But that last day, I'd come back from being super sick, and we were going for copper. It's just not the same Sunday morning. Let's go for the copper. Come on, team. Let's get copper. It's just like, but I'll tell you what. We needed that French surfer to get fourth in that 4-man final in the last heat, and we get copper. By golly, he got fourth. And to get on the podium and get some copper and to go home with a medal in your carry-on baggage is better than not. So the moral of the story is give your best effort, whether you're going for copper, bronze, silver, or gold. It's easy to go for gold. It's harder to go for bronze. It's easier to give your best artistic effort and your first fruits for gold and the mercy seat that's super special than it is for bronze and the altar of sacrifice that's a bloody mess. And yet the same person built them both. And so we move on with that thought from Colossians. Whatever you do, do it heartily, not unto men, but as unto the Lord. We want to have the same character, the same effort, whether God's saying you're building a gold mercy seat or a bronze altar of animal sacrifice. I think Bezaleel, I'm inclined to think he gave 100% gold or bronze. He didn't quit or tank it or just throw in the towel. I think he gave the same effort when going for bronze in the consolation final that he would in going for gold in the gold final. Verse 21, this is the inventory of the tabernacle of the testimony, which was counted according to the commandment of Moses for the service of the Levites, by the hand of Ithamar, son of Aaron the priest. Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Heir, of the tribe of Judah, made all that the Lord had commanded Moses, and with him was Aholiab, the son of Asimach, of the tribe of Dan, an engraver and designer of weaver and blue, purple, and scarlet thread and fine linen. This is the garment industry, like just really good garment work. Verse 24, all the gold that was used in the work of the holy place, that is, the gold of the offering, was 29 talents and 730 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. And the silver from those who were numbered the congregation was 100 talents and 1,775 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. A bekah for each man, that is a half shekel, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. For everyone included in the numbering from 20 years old and above, for 3,550 men. And from the hundreds of talents of silver were cast the sockets of the sanctuary, the bases of the veil, the 100 sockets for the 100 talents, the 1 talent for each socket. Then from the 1,775 shekels he made hooks for the pillars, overlaid their capitals, and made bands for them. The offering of bronze was 70 talents and 2,400 shekels. And with it, he made the sockets for the door of the tabernacle meeting, the bronze altar, the bronze grating for it, all the utensils for the altar, the sockets for the court all around, the base for the court gates, all the pegs for the tabernacle, all the pegs for the court all around. I would just point out that there is an accounting, isn't there? There's an accounting. There's an accounting to the shekel for gold, silver, bronze, and what? People. Did you catch that? Because the people paid the half shekel silver tax, the men over 20. To the person, there's an accounting. And it just reminds us that God is a God of details and we have stewardship. We're told in Proverbs to know the state of our flocks. It's good to know where we're at. It's good to know the accounting. You can't run a business without knowing what you have in inventory and what's being ordered and who's going to ship it and these types of things. It's good to be accountable, and we've been talking about this throughout Exodus, and this is accountability for gold, silver, and bronze. To the very weight of the shekel for gold, silver, bronze, and people. And isn't it interesting that there's exact accounting for bronze as there is for gold? Isn't that interesting? Because again, you might get sloppy with the bronze because it's not nearly worth the same as the gold. If you have a U.S. Gold coin, an ounce coin, like a silver eagle, or really a gold eagle, whatever, a gold coin, a silver coin would be like worth about $18, I think. You know, silver peaked at about $50 back during 2008-09, that crash, but it's about probably $18, $16. And then you got a penny, which is copper, really, but like, if you had the gold coin, you would, again, value that more than the silver dollar, the American Eagle silver dollar, or something that's bronze or copper. But yet, it's accounting for every shekel of the bronze, of the silver, of the gold. And if you go to the parable of the minas, when the people give an account, the servants give an account to the master in that parable, one had 5, made 10, one had 2, made 4, one had 1 and buried it. But they're all accountable. So whether you got one, you're accountable. Whether you got two, you're accountable. And whether you got five, you're accountable. And it's interesting, again, that the one that got two made four, and the one that got five made 10. They doubled, 100% return, and they both have the identical thing said to them by the Lord. So it wasn't the value or the quantity of the value that they received. It's what they did with it that brings the reward. The two verses in Matthew 25, between verses 13 and 31, in the context of the return of the Lord, that the one who got 2, 4, and 5, 10, the master says the exact same thing to them. And Jesus is teaching that as something to prepare us for what eternity is like when we stand before the Lord. What's your point, Joey? Keep track of your shekels. Bronze, silver, gold. And most importantly, certainly value all human beings. Chapter 39. Of the purple, we'll say now we get to the priesthood and the making of all the priesthood stuff. And so again, we have a lot of text here. I'll read through it. You can read along in your mind with me as we go for some verses here. Of the blue, the purple, and scarlet thread, they made garments of ministry for the ministering in the holy place, and made the holy garments for Aaron as the Lord commanded Moses. He made the ephod, that's the robe, of gold, blue, purple, scarlet thread, and fine woven linen. And they beat the gold into thin sheets design. They made shoulder straps for it to couple together, for it was coupled together at its two edges. And the intricately woven band of his ephod was of the same workmanship, woven of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and of fine woven linen, as the Lord had commanded Moses. And they set the onyx stone enclosed in the settings of gold. They were engraved as signets are engraved, with the names of the sons of Israel. He put them on the shoulders of the ephod as memorial stones for the sons of Israel, as the Lord had commanded Moses. So remember, Aaron would wear this, and he bore the names of Israel on his shoulders. He carried them. Verse 8. And he made the breastplate artistically woven like the workmanship of the ephod of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet thread of fine woven linen. And they made the breastplate square by doubling it. A span was its length, and a span its width when doubled. And they set it in 4 rows of stones. A row with sardius, topaz, and emerald was the first row. The second row, a turquoise, a sapphire, and a diamond. The third row, a jacinth, an agate, and amethyst. The fourth row was beryl, onyx, and a jasper. They were enclosed in settings of gold in their mounting. There were 12 stones according to the names of the sons of Israel, according to their names engraved like a signet, each one with its own name, according to the 12 tribes. And they made chains for the breastplate of the ends, like braided cords of pure gold. They also made 2 settings of gold and 2 gold rings, and put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. And they put the 2 braided chains on the gold and the 2 rings on the ends of the breastplate. The 2 ends of the 2 braided chains they fastened in 2 settings, and put them on the shoulder straps of the ephod in the front. And they made 2 rings of gold and put them on the 2 ends of the breastplate, on the edge of it, which was on the inward side of the ephod. They made 2 other gold straps and put on the 2 shoulder straps underneath the ephod towards its front, right at the seam above the intricately woven band of the ephod. And they bound the breastplate by means of its rings to the ring of the ephod with a blue cord, so that it would be above the intricately woven band of the ephod. And the breastplate would not come loose from the ephod, as the Lord had commanded Moses. He made the robe of the ephod of woven work, all of blue. And there was an opening in the middle of the robe, like the opening of a coat of mail, with a woven binding all around the opening, so it would not tear. They made on the hem of the robe pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet of fine woven linen. They made bells of pure gold and put the bells between the pomegranates on the hem of the robe, all around between the pomegranates. A bell and a pomegranate, a bell and a pomegranate, all around the hem of the robe to minister in, as the Lord had commanded Moses. Then they made tunics artistically woven, so those are hats, of fine linen for Aaron and his sons, a turban of fine linen, exquisite hats of fine linen, short trousers of fine woven linen, and a sash of fine woven linen with blue, purple, and scarlet thread, made by a weaver, as the Lord had commanded Moses. Then they made the plate of the holy crown of pure gold, and wrote out the inscription like the engraving of a signet, holiness to the Lord. And they tied it to a blue cord to fasten above the turban, as the Lord had commanded Moses. We see that phrase here repeatedly in this passage, as the Lord had commanded Moses. So this priesthood garment is very important. You had to look a certain way. Obviously, again, it's kind of funny, but just talking about the surf team again, every year we discuss like what kind of uniforms we wanted to wear for the opening ceremony, what kind of gear we'd want on, when we're at the beach for 10 days straight. I remember with Calvary Chapel football, it was a big deal when they got new helmets because they used to have the eagle, and then they got the CC with the cross. That was really cool. And, your uniform, it's like, you represent your brand. And if your brand is a special brand, you like to represent. And, this is, you want it to have value. In fact, when I became the coach of the Chilean surf team, one of the things I try to do is teach them to value their brand. They loved being Chileans, but they weren't confident as competitors and athletes. And so through training, we had to build their confidence. They were ready for this moment, and they carried themselves like they belonged. And there would be a measure of pride in a good way to wear a uniform like your team Chile, Equipo de Chilenos Surfistas. It's an honor, it's an honor to wear that. And it took a while, but by the time we left, it was an honor. When we began at varsity JV, I went up and down the Chilean coast 3,000 miles to find 6 girls that could surf and stand up and do a turn. Literally, to just fill a team. If like you're at a school and you're just trying to fill your JV girls softball team or something, get 10 girls that can play, or 11, you have a bench player or something. But by the end, there was many people that wanted to do it. And at the beginning, if you just could pay your way to go to somewhere you could represent your country, but it didn't feel like it was earned. But as we trained and as we did trials, and people had their hearts broken by not making the team, and people had the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, like the old ABC Wild World Sports opening, it took on a greater measure. And suddenly when you wore that Chilean Equipo de Chilenos in the opening parade, it meant something more. It was a big deal. Your parents just didn't buy it for you because you come from money in Chile. You earned it. And by the time we left, it really, the best result ever for Team Chile was last year in Huntington Beach, a couple of years after we moved on. It was their best result. Some great top 10 finishes. And to wear the brand Chilean surf team meant a lot more because it created value. So now we think about that and how that works. This is the linen garment of the high priest coming from heaven, a model of things in heaven. What a privilege. What an honor. Again, think of if you walked on at modern day high school and you wanted to play for, modern day girls softball. We've had some girls that played for modern day softball here at the church, the con girls, or whatever, it's like, or even to play college sports, like, it's something special. Now you come back to this. This is all grace called by the Lord. I think how Aaron's going to feel when he puts this stuff on after he built the golden calf. Talk about, you shouldn't even be on the team. And you're the starting quarterback. Holiness to the Lord. Here we go. Opening day, right? It's beautiful. You could read this and go what is this? Is this, am I like Joanne's buying stuff or something? I'm going to build some materials to build masks or something. No, this is the priesthood stuff. This is beautiful, glorious garments with special, precious metals and jewels, and it's glorious. And it's a model of things in heaven. Don't miss it. It's beautiful. And is there anything more beautiful than the high priest with the holiness of the Lord, which means set apart? God is holy. God is light, in him is no darkness at all. Don't you think it's great that whoever is representing the Lord would be called to be representing that character? And again, with companies, when you go to work for different companies, there's a culture, right? They teach you about culture. My Olympic training with the USOC, we studied Joe Gibbs Racing. We studied the Navy SEALs. We studied British women's field hockey, extremely successful, BMW Europe. We studied companies and sports that were extremely successful for their culture. And when you came in, there's an identity that you're coming into. Churches have culture. Your family has culture. If someone came to live with you, there's a culture, a standard of your home, right? This is what it's like in our home. That's how it works. This is the kingdom culture. So priest, you're going to take a bath, and you're going to put the stuff on, and it's an incredible calling and privilege to put on that high priest gold plate that says holiness to the Lord. But it's all grace. It really is, isn't it? Right? Isn't it, WG? It's all grace. But you can really take this further, because when we give our life to Christ, we are declared righteous. We are declared righteous perfectly righteous before God the Father because of our faith in Jesus Christ. Our practical righteousness is like Aaron. We might build golden calves. We might help people build golden calves, and it's very embarrassing, but our positional righteousness has not changed. So we might see like failure before the Lord on Tuesday, June 30th, when we look in the mirror. But because we're in Christ, the Father sees holiness to the Lord because he sees us in Christ. And in Christ, all are justified through faith. So really, once we give our life to Christ, we have holiness to the Lord right over our forehead in the kingdom goggles of the dimension of eternity. And Aaron couldn't get it done anyways. I mean, Jesus came and lived the perfect sinless life, and then it's reckoned to our account when we put our faith in him. Just there's something beautiful about this. Just picturing the opening ceremonies I've been a part of for world championships, and I just picture these priests, and we're gonna get to them still. Verse 32, thus all the work of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, was finished, and the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord had commanded Moses, so they did. And they brought the tabernacle to Moses, the tent, all of its furnishings, its clasp, its boards, its bars, its pillars, its sockets, the covering of ram skin dyed red, the covering of badger skin, the veil of the covering, the ark of the testimony with its poles, the mercy seat, the table, all of its utensils, and the showbread, the pure gold lampstand with its lamps, the lamps set in order, all of its utensils, and the oil for light, the gold altar, the anointing oil, the sweet incense, the screen for the tabernacle door, the bronze altar, its grate of bronze, its poles and all of its utensils, the laver with its base, the hangings of the court, its pillars, its sockets, the screen for the court gate, its cords and its pegs, all the utensils for the service of the tabernacle, for the tent of meeting, and the garments of ministry to minister in the holy place, the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and his son's garments to minister as priests, according to all that the Lord had commanded Moses, so the children of Israel did all the work. Then Moses looked over all the work, and indeed they had done it as the Lord had commanded, just as they had done it, and Moses blessed them. This is a happy chapter. Did you catch that? This is a pretty happy chapter in the Bible. They did what they're supposed to do. They did all the work. They did it exactly how they're supposed to do it. The job's done in that sense. They bring it to the boss, the foreman, Moses, and Moses says, hey, good job. And he blessed them. He pronounced blessings upon them. And there are blessings upon us when we complete the job, when we seal the fruit, as we talked about last week in Romans 15. There are blessings upon us when it's done. Like we said in the Proverbs earlier, a matter completed is better than one spoken of. There's just something about when you finish a project, you finish a term paper, you finish your degree, you finish this, you finish that. There's just something about completion. That's why every year when we get the graduation cards from high school seniors, they're very valuable to me. I get about 2 to 5 a year being a pastor, congregants' kids grow up. They're part of our children's ministry. Got 4 of them this year. A couple from WG. Jim O'Connor, my assistant pastor in Vermont, who took over for me. His youngest daughter graduated high school this year, Hope. She wasn't even born when we came back to California, right? But I would say if a high school senior thinks enough of me to send me a graduating card, we always send them a gift, a generous gift, because we want them to know we believe in them. Because graduating high school is a big deal. Graduating college, obviously, is a big deal. But graduating high school is a big deal. It's kind of like that first, really big deal. And I like junior high graduations. I used to have them at Calvary. I mean, kindergarten graduation is not bad, too. When you're grandpa and you see the kids graduate, we'll find out soon, huh? They're for the grandparents, right? I mean, isn't every kindergarten graduation for the grandparents, right? I mean, some parents, but it's really for the grandparents. But there is something, all 4 of my kids graduate Calvary Chapel High School, 08, 10, 13, and 15, and they're special. And there's something very special about it. It's a big deal. And you see the senior photos that they do when they send you a card, they're graduating. They look like adults. They always look like adults. It happens every year. By golly, Garrison Crosco looks like an adult. He looks like a man. He's got his man face on. Yeah. A job well done and things being completed. And we definitely, to just on that thought, we prayed for the seniors here Saturday night. We want to be people that speak life and build people up. We always want to encourage people on jobs well done. People hear enough what they didn't do and how they didn't do it right. It's good to be people. The Bible talks about speaking words of life and edifying and building up. We all know that we make mistakes. We all know that we fail. And we all know that We can get discouraged if we look in the mirror too long. What we need to know is that God loves us. He forgives us. He believes in us. He's got a plan for us. And today is a new day. That's what people need to know. And so a job well done. And there's just something good about not just having the check that you're working on when the line goes through the task. Because I'll check it when it's under construction. But when it's done, that line goes through. It's like, yeah, it's a good feeling. Job well done. Particularly jobs that the Lord has entrusted to us, and we know that. He's put us over them. He's guided us through them, which he should with all of our jobs, and he seals the fruit. Most of you don't know what it's like to get in a truck moving from a state where you move to start a church and you're leaving that church. There's a lot of time to reflect when you're doing stuff like that, and we've done that a couple times. And now, many of you know what it's like to leave a place of employment where you completed something and you're moving on to new adventures. We can just draw that. But you seal the fruit, and a job well done as best as you can. And sometimes you can't seal the fruit the way you want to, right? Sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you get let go. A friend of ours was here at church the other night, and he lost his job during COVID. And I said, what, did you get furloughed? And he goes, no, exterminated. I go, wow. And his kid looked at him and went, like, obviously it's been a point of humor in the family because you just got to kind of go with it, right? Well, did you get furloughed? No, exterminated. So that's not sealing the fruit the way you wanted to. And COVID-19 certainly made sure a lot of us didn't seal the fruit the way we wanted to, right? Nonetheless, when it's done, even if it stops midway, you want to know that you gave it your best. And it was a job well done, whether you ended it the way you wanted it to, foreseen it, or just the way that the Lord brought it about. But that you walk away and you know that Moses can bless you because it was a job well done. Chapter 40. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, on the first day of the first month, you shall set up the tabernacle, the tent of meeting. You shall put in the ark of the testimony and partition off the ark with the veil. You shall bring in the table and arrange the things that are to be set in order on it. And you shall bring in the lampstand and light its lamps. You shall also set the altar of gold for the incense before the ark of the testimony and put up the screen for the door of the tabernacle. Then you shall set the altar on the burnt offering before the door of the tabernacle of the tent of meeting. And you shall set the laver between the tabernacle of meeting and the altar and put water in it. That's that bathtub. Verse 8. And you shall set up a court all around and hang up all the screen at the courtyard, court gate. And you shall take the anointing oil and anoint the tabernacle and all that's in it. And you shall hallow it and all its utensils, and it shall be holy. You shall anoint the altar of the burnt offering, all of its utensils, and consecrate the altar. The altar shall be most holy. Of course, it's a type of Christ coming on the cross. Of course, it's holy. Verse 11. And you shall anoint the laver in its base and consecrate it. Then you shall bring Aaron and his sons to the door of the tabernacle meeting and wash them with the water. You shall put the holy garments on Aaron and anoint him and consecrate him, that he may minister to me as a priest. And you shall bring his sons and his clothes and clothe them with the tunics. And you shall anoint them as you anointed their father, that they may minister to me as priests, for their anointing shall surely be an everlasting priesthood throughout their generations. Thus Moses did, according to all that the Lord had commanded him. So he did. And it came to pass in the first month of the second year, of the first day of the month, so it's been 1 year, that the tabernacle was raised up. So Moses raised up the tabernacle, fastened its sockets, set up its boards, put in its bars, raised up its pillars. He spread out the tent cover over the tabernacle, put the covering of the tent on top of it, as the Lord had commanded Moses. He took the testimony and put it in the ark. That's the Ten Commandments. Inserted the poles through the rings of the ark, put the mercy seat on top of the ark, brought the ark into the tabernacle, hung up the veil of covering, partitioned off the ark of the testimony as the Lord had commanded Moses. He put the table in the tabernacle of meeting on the north side of the tabernacle outside the veil. He set the bread in order up before the Lord as the Lord had commanded Moses. He put the lampstand in the tabernacle of meeting across from the table on the south side of the tabernacle, and he lit the lamps before the Lord as the Lord had commanded Moses. He put the gold altar in the tabernacle of meeting in front of the veil, and he burned sweet incense on it as the Lord had commanded Moses. Now remember, the smell of that incense was unique only to the tabernacle, nowhere else. It was a heavenly smell, super special. Verse 28, he hung up the screen at the door of the tabernacle, and he put the altar burnt offering before the door of the tabernacle on the tent of meeting, and offered upon it its burnt offering and the grain offering as the Lord commanded Moses. He set the laver between the tabernacle of meeting and the altar and put water there for washing. And Moses and Aaron and his sons would wash their hands and their feet with water from it whenever they went into the tabernacle of meeting. And when they came near the altar, they washed, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he raised up the court all around the tabernacle of the altar, hung up the screen of the court gate. So Moses finished the work. So they set it up. So now it's operational, right? Like it's kind of like you're preparing to launch a business, and now you're operational. Shipping, receiving, customers, it's all happening. You're in business, you're open for business. Here we are, we're open for business. Come on in. And they set it up. Can you just imagine? And it was central to the way the tribes camped and traveled. It was in the center, right? So you had 3 tribes to the north, the south, the west, and the east. And the central place was where the Levites were and all this. So it was the center. It was the center. It was the city center. And there it was. It's awesome. On the 1 year exactly, the 1 year anniversary, it went up, and there they are. And here come the priests in their opening day uniforms. And here's Aaron with holiness to the Lord. Man, it's awesome. It's so special. They've done the cleaning. They've done all this. They finished the work. But you saw throughout this chapter that in the previous chapter, as the Lord had commanded, everything was according to God's order. There is an order. And they did it exactly according to his order. That's where the blessings are, according to his order. But the last thing we see now is God meeting there, and we close with this tonight, verse 34. Then the cloud covered the tabernacle of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle, and Moses was not able to enter the tabernacle of meeting because the cloud rested above it, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Whenever the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle, the children of Israel would go onward in their journeys. But if the cloud was not taken up, then they did not journey till the day that it was taken up. For the cloud of the Lord was above the tabernacle by day, and fire over it by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout their journeys. And their journeys was 40 years to get to 39 years from this day to get to the promised land. But remember, everyone over 20 forfeited it by not going into the promised land the following year, except for Caleb and Joshua. And so really, this story is about the ones that were under 20. Because let's say you were 19 at that time, you'd spend the next 39 years, 40 years in the wilderness. You would be moving towards Social Security on a 40-year death march in the desert, watching the previous generation die off, but you would still be a leader going into the promised land when it was your time to lead now your kids' generation. That 40-year wilderness wandering was very unique in human history of these people. And it's supernatural because God would guide them, the cloud by day. All of a sudden you're sitting there, your tent on a hot day in the middle of, in Jordan, modern Jordan, and you're sitting there, you've been there for like a month and a half, and you're like, well, what's the report on the old people dying? What's the report? And it's not good. I heard the tribe of Dan lost 120 people yesterday. No kidding. Yeah, well, we're getting closer, but man, we've been stuck here for weeks. Like, when do you think we're going to move? Whenever the Lord moves us. Hey, look at that. All of a sudden the cloud's like, hey, pack it up. Let's go. Let's go. Pack it up. The cloud's moving. Like, that's how they were led. When the cloud stopped, they stopped. It's like your kids that, like, how long are we going to be here for? As long as we need to be. Why are we going now? Because now it's time to go. And that's how it was. When it stopped, it stopped. When they went, they went. He guided them. He literally supernaturally guided them. Functioning in the realm of time, space, and matter, God was supernaturally guiding this generation to the promised land. And we're told for us in Christ that the Holy Spirit guides us in all truths and all ways that we need to go. We don't have that cloud over our head and that fire by night. And, it would be a little easier if you could just look up, there's a fire. Hey, the fire's going this way. That would be easier. But you can still know where the fire is going by being on your knees and praying and letting the still small voice of Christ, the Holy Spirit, guide us. We like easy. The Lord pursues depth and passion and purpose. We're thinking time, he's working on eternity. But one last thing I'd point out, and I mentioned this Saturday night. So we want to be Spirit-led. We want the Lord to guide us. If he says sit, sit. If he says go, go. We want to be led that way. Daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, by the decade. This is how we want to live our lives. To know and recognize when the cloud and the fire are moving, and to follow and not resist it. Don't sit in a rut and watch the cloud take off without you. Get up and get moving. And don't take off like this and go like, yeah, let's go. And you turn around, the fire's way back here. Hey, where are you going? Get back under that fire. Get back where the Lord's presence is. So we seek the Lord. He guides us. Jesus said, my sheep hear my voice, and they follow him. Right. So that's a promise. So as we just slow it down, draw near the Lord, he'll guide us. But here's the crown jewel of all this we close with right now. When they dedicated the tabernacle, God's glory came. The cloud from heaven came. It's a supernatural cloud. This is not June gloom. This is the real deal. This is a supernatural cloud. This cloud came, and the glory of the Lord came. They came together. And I mentioned this Saturday, so I say it again. The cloud and the glory went together. The two phrases are used together. The cloud and the glory. Supernatural. The cloud and the glory. At the dedication. And Moses couldn't even walk in. The presence of the Lord was so powerful. Then, 600 years later, when Solomon dedicates the temple, and there's putting the tabernacle out of business, and now it's the temple, this same thing. The cloud and the glory come. God came supernaturally in this dimension and met them right where they're at, and his presence overwhelmed them, and the people all fell on their faces and praised the Lord. Then in the New Testament, when Jesus is transfigured and his glory is revealed, the cloud comes and the Father speaks. And then looking back in 2 Peter, as Peter's describing it, he said, we beheld his glory at the Mount of Transfiguration. So, cloud and glory, tabernacle, the Lord. Cloud and glory, temple, the Lord. Cloud and glory, Jesus in his first coming revealed to the three pillars, Peter, John, and James. But wait, there's more. Because when Jesus comes back in Matthew 24, we're told he comes on the cloud in great glory. We got one more cloud. That's your mic drop. We got one more cloud, body of Christ. And one more glory. And when that glory comes, we're told that we will be with him in his glory. Colossians 3. Even so, Maranatha, come, Lord Jesus, come. Oh, there's one more cloud. There's one more glory. And this is the cloud and glory that exceeds all clouds and glory. For Jesus said he's coming in the clouds, and every eye shall see him. And the kingdom comes. Stay on point. Lord, we thank you for your word and its application to our life here tonight. You are the same yesterday, today, and forever. And what you do for your glory, for all eternity. And you're working in time for eternity, from the youngest to the oldest here tonight. And we embrace that work. We chose to come on Tuesday night. And we just invite you to keep working our lives, that we'd be faithful in doing the work and the things that we need to do. But yet at the same time, Lord, we'd realize our hope is your glory. Christ in us, the hope of glory, your coming glory. So God, just be with us and keep us encouraged and positive and optimistic and full of faith in this journey. In these trying times, may we just keep our eyes on you, to look on high and say, Maranatha, the Lord is coming. You told us to be watching and ready, so may we be. And Lord, as we shift gears to a time of worship and communion, this is the first communion on Tuesday night since the month of February. We've not had communion for 5 months, Lord, since the month of February on Tuesday night. And so we gather tonight with this communion time as a church family to say thank you, to do it in remembrance of you, Jesus, that you paid the price and we are forgiven, because if the Son sets us free, we're free indeed. And that we partake of communion with confession if we need to with you, Lord, and then with expectation of that cloud and great glory, because we're told that we'll drink this new in the Father's kingdom. So even as the priest had the pomegranate gold bell, we know in the kingdom it's horses with bells that say holiness to the Lord on their little bells. So there's great glory coming, Lord. So we have it all here, the past, the present, and the future with the communion elements. Would you just meet us in this place? And as we are at halftime on the year 2020, would you just encourage us and build us up and prepare us for turning the page to the second half of 2020? And let us not go in and doing good. So God, we just commit ourselves to you and this additional time of worship now in Jesus' name. Amen. Awesome. Well, Chris is going to lead us in worship for about 15 minutes or so. Communion elements are up front, and invite you to come receive the bread and the cup and take them back to your seats and partake. If you want to partake and then you got to go, God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend, a safe 4th of July weekend. If you want to stick around for fellowship and prayer afterwards, we're here available for prayer and whatnot. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy this time. Be encouraged, be built up, and just praise the Lord because Jesus is on the throne and he is coming on the clouds of heaven in great glory.